The Games of the 32nd Olympiad in Tokyo will finally get underway later this week, followed by the 16th Paralympic Games in August. But they will, of course, be Olympics and Paralympics like no other before them. Delayed by 12 months by the COVID pandemic, the Games will now go ahead, but in central Tokyo at least, without a single spectator there to cheer on the athletes. Ticket sales had already been sluggish, with fewer than 5 million sold even before the latest Tokyo state of emergency announcement, more than 1 million fewer than at recent Games in Rio and Beijing, and over 3 million fewer than the record-breaking London Games of 2012. And all that has led to concern from the international and domestic sponsors of the Games that they may not get returns on the billions of dollars it's cost them to have their brands associated with the biggest sporting event on the planet. And for the more than 11,000 athletes expected to compete, it's going to be a very different experience. Where usually they can use the crowd to propel them to greater levels of performance, this time, the usual deafening roar of support will be entirely absent. With fewer than 20% of the Japanese population currently having had a single vaccine dose, there is real concern the Games could lead to a huge spike in COVID cases across the country. One poll earlier this year suggested more than 80% of Japanese people thought the Games should be cancelled. Cancellation would cost Japan around $16.5 billion, a huge sum, but one which critics claim could be dwarfed by the costs associated with a nationwide post-Olympics state of emergency. But others argue that what the world really needs in these very difficult times is to see the very best athletes from around the world coming together to perform at their peak. The strict measures in place to keep athletes safe is simply the price we have to pay if the Olympics are to happen in the midst of a global pandemic. Perhaps it's just the right time for us all to remember we need to strive to be, as the Olympic motto puts it, faster, higher and stronger.